Today, we're really getting into the weeds on short-term rentals, STRs.
Yeah, specifically the different ways people actually run these businesses. It's not just one thing.
Exactly. We've got some great source material you sent over, and the plan is basically to unpack these different models, go beyond, just buying a place.
And help figure out which approach might actually work best for you, depending on, well, your skills, what resources you have, your goals.
Because the sources make it super clear. It's definitely not one size fits all. There are lots of paths here.
That's right. It's a whole spectrum. And success, according to the material, really hinges on finding that alignment, the model that fits you. We've identified, 8 distinct approaches from the sources?
Yep, 8 models. Okay, let's get into them. We're looking at everything from like the super classic way to some really creative strategies that don't need huge capital.
And the sources lay out these key factors for each, which is helpful. Things like startup costs, do you need to own the property, the risk involved.
Scalability, profit potential, how much work it actually is.
Right. And when we mention costs or risk, we're using that rating system from the sources, low to high, sometimes with little symbols.
Gotcha. Okay, let's start with the big one, the classic, traditional ownership.
Yeah, this is probably what pops into most people's heads first. It's pretty straightforward. You buy a property.
House, condo, whatever.
Right. You furnish it, set it all up, and then you run it. You're the operator.
Handling everything, bookings.
Everything. Guest communication, maintenance, pricing, dealing with local rules, permits, the whole 9 yards.
And the sources. They definitely highlight the cost here. Rated high startup cost, right? The full 4 money signs. I'll have it.
Yeah. You need the down payment, closing costs, all the furniture, initial running costs. It adds up fast.
But the flip side, the big plus, is building wealth.
That's the main draw, according to the sources. You're building equity, potential for the place to appreciate in value over time, plus tax benefits like mortgage interest deductions, depreciation.
Because you actually own the asset.
Full control.
Total control. Over the property, the guest experience, everything. Involvement is rated high SaaS, unless you pay for a lot of help, obviously.
And risk.
Medium risks. You've got market risk, regulatory risk changing, things breaking. But you do own the asset, which mitigates some risk compared to other models.
Makes sense. Scalability.
Moderate the sources say. Often limited by how much capital you have to buy the next property.
And profit potential.
Pretty strong. $4 signs on. This is really for people looking at long-term investment, building wealth through real estate, and who are okay with that big initial investment and being hands-on. Or managing the people who are hands-on.
Okay. Own it, run it, build equity. Got it. Now let's do a complete 180. Rental arbitrage. No ownership at all here.
None. Zero ownership. That's the whole point. It massively lowers the barrier to entry, capital-wise.
So how does it work then?
You rent a place, like a normal apartment or house, using a standard long-term lease.
But T, and this is absolutely critical, stressed in the sources, you must get explicit. Written permission from the landlord to then turn around and list that property on Airbnb, Vrbo, places like that.
So you sublet it short-term.
Essentially, yes. Your profit is the difference or the spread between the long-term rent you pay your landlord and what you bring in from short-term guests. After, of course, your costs like cleaning, utilities, platform fees.
And the startup cost is way lower, just moderate grease in the source ratings.
Significantly lower. You still need to furnish it, set up systems, maybe cover a security deposit, but you skip that huge property purchase cost. Ownership is marked as no.
Okay, sounds easier to start, but what's the catch? The risk must be higher.
It is. The sources rate the risk as high hole. Think about it. Your whole business depends on that lease.
Right. The landlord could just not renew.
Exactly. Or they could sell the property. Or local rules could change overnight and suddenly ban this kind of subletting. Or even just a dip in demand means you can't cover the rent you owe.
So operational risk is the big one. Landlord relationships and knowing the local laws are key.
Absolutely critical. The sources really emphasize that. You trade the financial risk of owning for this operational and regulatory vulnerability.
But the upside is scaling. Rated high scalability.
Yeah, because you're not limited by needing massive capital for each new unit. If you can find willing landlords and good properties, you can potentially add units much faster than buying them.
Profit potential.
Rated a high. Involvement is medium-high, all shucksies. It's very operational. Lots of guest management, coordinating cleaning, and nurturing those landlord relationships.
And the sources mentioned someone built a big business this way.
Yeah, a local operator example cited had built a portfolio of over 25 properties using just arbitrage, and the next model we're about to talk about shows it can be done if you're systematic.
Which is
Yeah.
co-hosting or property management. Okay, so this is if you don't want to buy or rent long term.
Exactly. You're essentially the operator, but for someone else's property.
So you find owners who have a place they want to use in STR, but they don't want to deal with the day-to-day.
Precisely. You become their full service manager. You'd handle, creating the listing, managing it, all the guest communication.
From the first message to the final review.
Yep. Coordinating cleaning, any maintenance issues, setting the prices, often using dynamic pricing tools, handling check-ins, checkouts.
And the startup cost here is rated very low each. Basically, your time and expertise.
Pretty much. Business setup, maybe some software subscriptions, but minimal capital outlay. And again, no ownership, no. You're leveraging other people's assets entirely.
How do you get paid?
Usually a percentage of the booking revenue. The sources mention a common range of, say, 15% to 30%, depending on exactly what services you provide.
And the risk. Low, oof.
Yeah, relatively low risk for you, the co-host. You don't own the property. You don't hold the lease. Your risk is more about losing a client or reputational damage if things go wrong.
Scalability is highest again.
Right. You can add clients and properties fairly quickly without needing big capital injections. Profit potential is rated Ensure. Involvement is high Turoi because you're actively managing multiple properties.
So this is good for people who are like super organized.
Definitely. Detail-oriented, great communicators, good with systems and people. It's ideal if you want a steady income stream from STRs without the headaches of ownership or leasing. And this was the other model that local operator used to scale.
Okay, interesting. Now, the service-based model, this sounds different again, supporting the ecosystem.
That's a perfect way to describe it. You're not running the rental itself. You're providing essential services that STR operators need.
Like cleaning.
Cleaning is a big one, especially companies specializing in those fast STR turnovers.
Yeah.
But also linen services, laundry, maybe routine maintenance, handyman stuff.
Could even be guest greetings, key exchanges.
Sure, or restocking supplies. Anything an owner or co-host might outsource.
Startup costs are low recruit again, according to the sources. Equipment, maybe a vehicle. Staffing if you grow.
Yeah, depends on the service. And definitely no ownership, no of the rental property. The key here, emphasized in the material, is reliability and quality.
Got to be fast, got to be good. Those turnover windows are tight.
Exactly. Reliability is everything. Risk is low, mainly operational risk, like not showing up or doing a poor job.
Scalability?
Moderate ERG. Often hinges on your ability to hire and manage good people if you want to grow beyond just yourself.
Profit potential, Vern. And high involvement ERC because it's usually hands-on work.
Right. Great for local service pros in areas with lots of STRs, people who like doing the actual work rather than managing the whole rental operation.
Okay. Then there's STR flipping or setup services.
Yeah.
This sounds like getting other people started.
Yeah, or helping them optimize. You're basically a consultant and an implementer. An owner has a property, maybe an empty investment property or even their second home, and they want to turn it into a successful STR.
So you come in and do what?
Everything to get it launch ready. Advise on layout, maybe minor renovations, definitely design and furnishing, making it look great for photos and guests, then setting up the actual listing on Airbnb or wherever, professional photos, writing the description.
Setting up the initial systems too, like for check-in or finding cleaners.
Exactly. Getting it totally turnkey for the owner.
Startup cost is moderate track here, marketing yourself, maybe some staging items.
Probably. Project management tools. Again, no ownership, no of the property itself. You get paid a fee by the client for your design and setup expertise.
Skills needed are creativity, design sense.
Design, staging, knowing what makes an STR attractive, project management, just getting stuff done efficiently. Risk is low because you're not tied to how well the STR performs long term.
Scalability moderate limited by how many projects you can juggle.
Usually, yes. Profit potential is einirtes. Involvement is medium. It's that mix of creative work and logistics. Ideal for designers, stagers, or anyone with that knack for creating appealing spaces and launching projects.
All right, now we're scaling up again. Boutique hotel or multi-unit STR.
Yeah, this is taking it to another level. We're talking about buying or converting properties with multiple units.
Like a small apartment building or an old motel.
Could be. Duplexes, triplexes, small commercial buildings maybe. The key is you're running all the units as STRs, usually under one cohesive brand. It feels more like a small distributed hotel.
And the cost jumps right back up. High startup order stress.
And definitely ownership shirier.
Yes, for sure. You're likely dealing with commercial loans, more complex zoning, maybe special licenses. It's a bigger undertaking than a single house.
Risk is high, too.
Makes sense, given the scale, higher investment, more complex operations. But the big potential upside, highlighted in the sources, is very high scalability within that one property.
Yeah. Easier to manage multiple units under one roof.
Potentially, yeah. You can centralize things and maybe have on-site staff for cleaning or check-ins, streamline marketing. It can be more efficient than managing, say, 10 separate houses scattered across town. Profit potential is the highest. $5 signs on Ozonites.
That's what the sources indicate, yes. Highest potential volume. Involvement is very high, so you're running a significant operation. This is really for seasoned investors, developers, maybe people with a hospitality background, ready for a big project.
Okay. Switching tracks slightly. Corporate and midterm rentals, defined as what, 30 to 90 days?
Typically, yeah. Longer than a vacation stay, shorter than a standard year-long lease.
Who stays in these?
Think traveling nurses, doctors doing rotation, corporate employees relocating or on assignment, sometimes students, people between homes. It's a specific niche.
Startup costs moderate stays, and ownership is either. Both.
Right. You could buy a property specifically for this market. Or potentially you could do rental arbitrage, but target midterm stays, again, with landlord permission.
The big advantage seems to be less hassle.
Definitely less turnover than nightly STRs. Fewer cleanings, less guest messaging back and forth, more predictable income streams, potentially.
Risk is medium. Lower than nightly, but still depends on demand.
Yeah, demand from those specific sectors, healthcare, corporate, etc. Scalability is moderate Gerch. Profit potential, usually more per month than a long-term rental, maybe less per night than a peak season STR.
Involvement is medium urge, less intense daily management.
Right. Good for investors near hospitals, business centers, universities. And there are specific platforms for this, like Furnished Finder, Blue Ground, mentioned in the material.
Okay, last one. Niche STRs. Treehouses, yurts. The cool stuff.
Exactly. This is all about unique, experience-driven stays, things that are destinations in themselves.
Like you said, treehouses, yurts, maybe domes, tiny homes, airstreams, unique architectural spots.
Converted buses, maybe? Anything where the place itself is a huge part of the appeal.
Startup cost moderate to higher, involves ownership?
Yes. Yeah, you usually have to build or significantly modify these unique structures. That can mean higher build costs, maybe tricky permitting.
But the payoff is standing out.
Massively. The sources stress that people often pay a premium for these unique experiences. Risk is medium-year. You've got the usual property risks, plus maybe the risk of being too niche or facing unique building code issues.
Scalability moderate rich, hard to just cookie cutter a unique treehouse.
Exactly. Replication can be tough. Profit potential is high signs, though, because of that premium pricing potential. Involvement, medium-high, lots of focus on branding, creating the experience, and visual marketing. Think Instagram.
Perfect for creative types in cool locations.
Totally. People passionate about building something memorable. So yeah, stepping back, you really see that spectrum the sources talked about. From the high capital, own the asset models like traditional and boutique hotel.
To the low capital, operational models like arbitrage and co-hosting.
And the service-focused ones like cleaning or setup. They vary so much in cost, ownership, risk, scale, profit, the actual work involved.
It really drives home that point from the sources. There's no single best model. It's about what fits you.
Exactly. Your skills, your money, your tolerance for risk, what you actually want to achieve. And like that local operator example showed, you can start small with one, maybe co-hosting, and grow into others later. It's not always a fixed choice forever.
That's a really helpful breakdown. It paints a clear picture of just how many different ways there are to approach the STR world. It's definitely not monolithic.
Lisa.
The best path for you really depends on you.
Yeah.
Your starting point, your strength, your end game. So having explored these 8 distinct paths, these different ways to build an STR business, here's something to think about. Beyond just picking one model off the shelf today, maybe there's an opportunity waiting for you right now. Could you maybe combine elements from different models in a clever way, or find a really specific niche within one of these models that plays perfectly to your unique skills and what's happening right there in your local market. Walter is actually offering to help you, the listener, get a handle on this financial piece, specifically with RelayFi.
Oh, extending that help offer again.
Yeah, he's offering a free 45-minute Zoom call. He'll literally show you exactly how he's set up and uses RelayFi.
That's generous. He mentions it took him, what, 45 hours to figure out his whole system?
Right. He says he can save you all that trial and error, walk you through it in just 45 minutes.
And you get the recording afterwards, too.
Yep, he sends you the recording of the call. Super useful to refer back to.
Okay, so how do people take him up on that?
Same contact info as before. Text him at 601-813-4661 or shoot him an email at walterwofford@gmail.com. Critically, make sure the subject line is just help.
Got it. Text or email, subject help.
Walter's story really hammers home how valuable it is to learn from those failures, but also how finding tools to automate things, especially finances, can just massively cut down on stress.
Yeah, freeing up mental energy.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What are the biggest friction points or time sucks in your own business or even personal finances? And how could maybe identifying and automating those free you up to focus on growth? Or maybe even help you skip some of those painful early mistakes Walter went through?
That's a great question to ponder. Where can automation remove the stress and let you focus on what really matters?